sisters and brothers, to our devotion for this new week as we gather together in God's most holy name to share this time together, to reflect with each other and to offer God praise as we begin a new day, as we begin a new week. I ask you to remember in your prayers the Provincial Synod of the Church of the Province of the West Indies, who will be meeting this entire week. They began last evening and they will be going through until Thursday. Pray for the Church that it may find new ways to engage the world. As we come together this morning, I want to ask you to hold in your hearts the family of our beloved Rosalind. Rosalind be laid to rest this evening at Coral Ridge. I just want to give God thanks for her life today especially. As we journey on this day, we want to give thanks and allow ourselves to find ourselves in the midst of God's work, knowing that we have a work to do, and this work is an important work, and we want to ask God's help. So we come into that time when we can be with God, like a child in the presence of an elderly person, feeling that sense of safety and unconditional love, feeling that sense of peace, knowing that there is nothing that can separate us, knowing the depth of this love. So we come into our hearts and we take a few deep breaths so that we can be mindful of our breath and that we can bring our attention away from our thoughts and allow it to focus on our breath. Allow it to be present deep within our heart space. And feel that presence. Take note of how it feels. Remember that this is our starting point every day or every moment. When we come out of a place of rest and we go into activity, and we begin in being and we move out into doing. So we breathe with awareness. And we feel each other's presence. Be intentional. Know that we are connected. Know that there's only one source. And all of us originate from that force. And all of us will return to that source. So as we breathe with one breath. And we are open to receive, open to understand, open to know, open to explore. reading for today. We hear of the rich man and Lazarus. It was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who longed to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried away by the angels to be with Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was being tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away, with Lazarus by his side. He called out, "Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in these flames." But Abraham said, "Child, remember that during your lifetime you receive your good things, and Lazarus in like manner evil things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. Besides all this, between you and us a great chasm has been fixed, so that those who might want to pass from here to you cannot do so, and no one can cross from there to us." He said, "Then, Father, I beg you to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may warn them, so that they will not also come into this place of torment." Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. They should listen to them." He said, "No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent." He said to him, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." Here ends the reading. Very familiar passage, and I'm sure we would have heard it so many times before, but there's always something new about these stories. as we listen to them from different places, we hear them differently. I was inviting us to focus on shining this week. Just being a witness. Witness to God's presence in the world, witness to God's love. How can we show up as witnesses? In the story of Dives and Lazarus, for Dives to have shown up as a witness, he simply needed to have paid attention to Lazarus. It would not have taken him much. It would have only taken him to acknowledge another human being, another child of God. You see, this is where we fall. And this is the lesson that we are constantly being asked to grasp. We've got to begin on the inside. Whenever we begin on the outside, we run ourselves in trouble. Because when we begin on the outside, all we can see is the other. When we begin on the inside, we see ourselves. And we don't want to injure ourselves. But we are taught to look at it from the outside. We are taught to see persons from the outside. And when we see persons from the outside, we see the difference. And when we see the difference, sometimes we are fearful that that difference may rub off on us. So we tend to treat that difference in the most disrespectful and horrible manner. What would it have taken out of the rich man to ensure that the man who was living by his gate was fed and was cared for? It's not a major thing that we are about. It's not a massive undertaking. It is an extremely simple thing for us. But it is only simple if we begin on the inside. And that's where the idea of being a witness comes in. To be a witness, it means that I present myself with an awareness of the fact that I am part of God's work. When I am a witness, I witness to the divine presence in me. And the minute I witness to the divine presence in me, I witness to the divine presence in every person. I see us all as one. The rich man was so caught up in his world that those who he would consider one with himself would be individuals who looked like him, who dressed like him, who in turn would invite him back to festivities. We spend so much time seeking to prove that we are not like the other. And we don't recognize at times how deeply this goes. We think of the rich man and Lazarus, and we perhaps don't see ourselves in that because we're not wealthy. But remember, Jesus is offering a parable, and a parable is representative of a whole array of experiences and ways of being in the world. So one can ask oneself, in what way, if it is not wealth and riches, in what way do I perceive myself as being other than that other person? And in what way, because I perceive myself as other than that person or those persons, do I withhold myself from engaging in that person, in whatever way that engagement would show up? In what way am I acting out the rich man's response to the poor man's presence? How am I doing it? Am I doing it? Or am I witnessing? If you feel you're witnessing, then God be praised. Keep at it. Keep pushing yourself beyond your own limits, because there's always more. There's always something that we aren't willing to go beyond. And that's how we are. We don't mind going this distance, but not too keen about going beyond here. Well, that's your trigger. That's your lesson. That's your test. That place where you can't go beyond, that's your test. Because all the rest you're probably doing, or you would have no problem doing it. So that's not your test. Your test is always the one that comes with great difficulty. That's why it's a test. Because it is challenging you to get beyond you. It's challenging you to go to the more. To know that there is more, and that you can do more, and that you can be more. So part of our task is to find out where that little barrier is. Where do I show up in living color as the rich man? And who is my Lazarus? What does he look like? What does she look like? What do they look like? Who are they? This is a parable by Jesus. Jesus' message is clear. Come not to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved. So no matter how the parable sounds, the message is a message of salvation. The message is, here's what we do. But if we do this, we run the risk of destroying ourselves in whatever way that manifests. So if you're aware of that, if you understand that, then perhaps, hopefully, just listening to that and hearing that would cause us to alter our course. But we don't want to do it out of fear of the outcome. We want to do it out of a deep awareness of the truth. So while the fear might get our attention, the search for my rich man and my Lazarus must come out of a desire to witness to the divine presence of God in our world. I really hope we can do this. Challenging as it may be, you can find that rich man or woman, and you can find that Lazarus if you really want to be a witness. I want to be a witness, and I want you to be a witness. Let us together witness to the fact that we are all one and that we serve a loving God who invites us to love as He loves, without condition.